Hey everybody, welcome back to Live Readings. I am your host, Alec. I represent One True Promotion. I am the author of the Meridian Trilogy. We have released book one, Barker's Rules, since about June. You can get your paperback of Barker's Rules for $12.99 on Amazon. You can get your ebook for $3.99 on Amazon. If you look for Barker's Rules right now on Amazon, it'll come right up and you will get a very cheap deal on a very good book. I have been told that it is an instant page turner. I have been told that the book can be finished in one day. It clocks at about 260 pages or so. So I recommend going and checking out Barker's Rules and, just showing a little bit of love to this author here. One True Promotion is a promotion brand created by ALEC, PANGIA, and Andrew Bass, author. If you want to check out Andrew Bass and his Sanguinary series, you can go check him out on Amazon as well, and you can go check him out on Instagram at AndrewBass24. Right now, you are watching on Facebook, you are watching on YouTube, and you are watching on Twitch. You are watching on Alec Pangia-author. You are watching on Alec Pangia's personal Facebook. Welcome. If you are fans of my personal Facebook account, welcome to the show. Now, tonight we're just going to do a couple of promos for you. If you are curious about the Meridian Trilogy, you might be interested to know that not only that Barker's Rules is out, but that Living in Fear, the sequel, is coming out in October, and that the third and final book, Phantom Wound, is coming out next summer in 2021. Phantom Wound is going to conclude the Meridian Trilogy. That's going to be so much more than a book publication. That is going to be the publication of the Meridian Trilogy. You will be able to buy the complete Meridian Trilogy at great prices as gifts for your loved ones on their birthdays or for Christmas presents or even for Halloween presents, because these are thriller books. And I think that if you are in the spirit of giving on Halloween, something that I've never done, but if you have something other than candy you want to give, you can give them the Meridian Trilogy. I'm sure they would like it very much. If you are watching on YouTube right now and enjoying the show, I do encourage you, please do subscribe. Please subscribe to One True Promotions YouTube channel. Go ahead and click that button, because the more subscribers we get, the more hits we get, the more we can feature your work on Live Readings. Live Readings is not just for Barker's Rules and Living in Fear and Alec Pangia, author. If this is your first time watching, Live Readings is all about you. Live Readings is part of an effort to bring awareness to our surrounding writing community. Live Readings is the chance to promote yourself via One True Promotion. Live Readings will allow you to get an excerpt of your work read live for free on the air. If you are interested and you would like your work read live and you would like people to be encouraged to go check out your profile or leave you a review where your book is vending, reach out to us at One True Promotion 2020 at gmail.com. That's One True Promotion 2020 at gmail.com. And send us an excerpt, and we'll put it right on the show. Tonight, we're just doing a little showcase of the Meridian Trilogy, so you can be sure that you're going to get some sneak peeks. So, if you are interested in some sneak peeks, we're going to begin with Barker's Rules. This is a chapter, a random chapter from Barker's Rules that might just enlighten you to the complex relationship between protagonist Melanie Greer and antagonist ? Justin Barker. So, without further ado, here we go. Settling down. Melanie waited all day long without a word of news, hoping beyond hope that Barker was dead. During that time, she got to see the routine that took place around this house. The gang, mostly the girls, kept the children entertained. Adam's duty was to entertain Melanie, and his choice was magic tricks. She wanted to remind him that she wasn't 5 years old, but something stopped her. He treated her so nicely, and Chris said he had a crush. If there was one thing Melanie didn't expect to find in this prison, it was a boy with a crush. Adam had a deck of playing cards to split up and slip up his sleeves. The first time she'd seen a card trick, it was her father, and he botched it. So really, her enthusiasm towards magic was sabotaged early. Chris never smoked in the house. She would walk out onto the porch. In contrast to the gymnasium, everything seemed more relaxed here. Like vacation. Although Chris walked in and out of the house and in and out of different rooms, Melanie felt the girl's eyes always on her. She was always being watched. Now that sunlight trickled in through the windows, Melanie saw that this house was practically entirely made of wood. There was no carpet on the floor, the walls were mahogany wood, and the space between the stairs and the living room was very small. But through that space, Melanie could see a white stove and over in the kitchen. Could see a white stove and oven in the kitchen. They were making dinner, brewing some kind of soup for the little ones, and sandwiches were in the works. Melanie was starving. As she was accustomed to by now, she would eat whatever they put down in front of her. Melanie was still not allowed to go outside, and the children bombarded her with questions. Where are you from? When did you get here? Do you know about Ghost Town? What's the bump on your head? Did Barker hurt you? What is he like? Chris had advised Melanie to just say Barker was her protector and theirs. For the most part, the gang kept the kids from bothering her, although she didn't mind. She had always liked kids. One of her earliest aspirations was to capture children in a playground under a blue, cloud-filled sky with her Canon video camera. Emily had pointed out to her that she would look like a creep, so she better not be seen. Melanie had said many times during her first 2 years in high school that although kids could be overwhelming, if you hated them, you were an asshole. They were all children once, and Melanie loved them. In fact, she hated that Barker hadn't set his people up any better than this. Yes, they had a roof, but it was cold in here. The central air didn't work as well as it could, and these were just kids. He was an animal. He didn't actually care, no matter how many bullets he protected her from. For some reason, at this passing thought, her eyes watered. There were moments, even before her kidnapping, where Melanie felt her eyes growing heavy. But she couldn't pinpoint what was making her feel that way. Just a string of blank but razor-edged emotions. So, photography, huh? Adam asked her. Melanie came back to reality. Both of them were sitting on the floor, against the wall, arms crossed over their knees. Melanie regarded the boy. In the light, he was clearly of Asian descent, with black hair, dark eyes, and deeply tanned skin. His voice was incredibly soft, and he was by far the most approachable member of this group. Sitting next to him gave her no start or anxiety, even if he did have a gun. Yeah, it's something I've always loved. Adam nodded his head. I like movies myself. Photographers are really important on film set. It was Melanie's turn to nod her head. What movies do you like? Adam cracked his neck, a habit that always made her flinch. I've always loved The Godfather, Citizen Kane, Scarface, James Bond movies. He finished with a laugh. I know. I'm so interesting. And Melanie laughed. That's okay. I like a couple of those too. Adam smiled at her, and Melanie smiled back. She returned her eyes to the floor, finding herself to be a touch more awkward in this situation than she had been in high school. Are they still looking for me? It's only been a few weeks. Although she missed home, she entertained a vision of Chris and Adam spiriting her away from Barker, forever. When the sun was down again, Chris approached Melanie. He's back. Her heart dropped. She felt heavier, like she'd seen a glimpse of freedom, and it was stripped from her. She should have just knocked Chris out and kept running when she had the chance. Why? Why did she do this to herself? There was a tension around the group. Most of the children were sitting in the kitchen. The boys sat in the living room, fully armed, and several others were sitting on the stairs. All eyes were on the front door, as there was a polite little knock. When Chris opened the door, and Barker stepped through, Melanie thought he looked different. Hunched over with his hand on his side, more worn down, he looked around the room with those big yellow eyes, and they settled on her. She shyly put an arm around herself as he approached. As they stood face to face, she felt a strange sense of limbo. Melanie was just waiting for whatever would happen next, without any real coherent thoughts. What happened was he placed his hand on the back of her head and gently pulled her into an embrace. He smelled awful, worse than ever, like blood and sewage mixed together. And being this close to him after everything he'd done gave her nothing but dread. And yet she was thrown by one thing, the gentleness of his touch. For a moment, she actually felt safe in his arms. Is it over? Chris asked. Barker turned his head and nodded. Yes. His voice grew louder, projecting. You've all been terrific. Thank you. When he said it, his voice sounded strained. How easy would it be to escape? Melanie looked at the girls and the children. All of them looked shy. Half of them looked away from Barker. Blood spotted his jacket. Are they gone? Melanie asked. Hush. He rubbed her shoulder. It's okay. We're going home. Barker, Chris said. He turned. What? Are we safe? She demanded. You are safe. He took a breath before continuing. Melanie could tell he didn't want to continue. Didn't want any more questions. There are 2 remaining, Orson and Ferris. You didn't kill Orson? No, I did not. That son of a bitch killed our Pat. He was 13. The enraged voice had come from the back of the room. It was Danny, the one who'd cried the hardest. All eyes were on him. Barker looked perplexed, and Chris looked stiff. Lost one, huh? Chris nodded and politely asked, Why didn't you kill him? Barker scoffed. Don't you question me. Everything I do for a reason. You know that. As usual, his scolding was calm and soft-voiced. If it makes you feel any better. He's a cripple now. Cripple? Chris asked. Well, I guess that's something. Barker smirked and turned back to the group. Melanie couldn't stand his long pauses anymore. They won't be coming back to Ghost Town, he said. Not unless they're suicidal, which isn't impossible, but don't worry. You're all safe now. Just be smart. There were some murmurings throughout the room. I have some money for you, Barker said to Chris. With an exaggerated, hypocritical grin, he said, Feed these poor kids. Chris bit her lip and looked at the floor, holding out her hand. After Barker gave her the money, he said again, loud and strained, If you see any unfamiliar faces in Ghost Town, you tell me immediately. I'll take care of everything, okay? They only continued to stare at him, some nodding their heads. Melanie noticed that Dom had his arms folded, coldly regarding Barker, and Peter looked apprehensive. The girls had all nodded their heads, and the little ones stood like small stones. Chris whistled, and Adam came over to collect some of the money. Melanie stood with Barker, unsure of what to say or do, until he told her, heaving first. Let's go. Melanie was standing between Barker, Chris, and Adam. She wanted to stay. She didn't want to go back. And for certain reasons, she thought they wanted her to stay as well. It'll be okay now, Mel, Chris said, and Melanie heard the hint. Adam looked at her longingly, but only waved at her in Barker's presence. Bye, Melanie, he said. Bye, she muttered. She looked from him to Chris and then around at the entire group before Barker gently tugged her and she was swept out the door. Outside it was a cold fall day, but the sun was shining. Sorry about all that, he said awkwardly. I have enemies. You said you'd take care of everything. How? You'll see. For now, why don't we head on back and check the damage, see if all your books are okay. He opened the door and got in. Melanie hadn't thought much about her books. She'd been in the middle of reading A Clockwork Orange when all of this started. She could get back to it. In fact, if Barker allowed it, that's how she'd spend the rest of the day. She didn't want to talk. Melanie put her seatbelt on, feeling like a restraint in its own right. And Barker drove up the partially functioning back roads of Ghost Town. Make any friends? He asked her. Think so. And that excerpt was from Barker's Rules. You can get that on Amazon for $12.99 in paperback and ebook for $3.99. So, we're just going to do one last little snippet for tonight. I would like to show you a little snippet of the sequel coming up in October. It is called Living in Fear, and it is the second book in the Meridian trilogy. He left Neuheim in 2013. When his route was set, he traveled for one full day, Throughout the trip, he had dreamt a destination unlike anything he had ever seen, but the first time Justin Barker stepped into the Meridian, he thought it looked like home. With each step Justin took, he would brush against a local who would answer the collision with an evil eye or some kind of slander against him. When he tried to approach one or more of them, he found them ducking their heads and walking away, and when he looked closely, he noticed that most of them were concealing firearms. In this way, Billings, Montana was just like Neuheim, and Justin felt like he had hardly traveled at all. At first, he was disappointed. Then he was enthused. He knew that he had to venture just a bit deeper to find the people who were like him. This was said to be an unprecedented time in American history. Montana was booming with crime. This particular city was known by several names. Formerly, it was Billings. On the news and the streets, it was just called the Beast's Belly. But on a secret network of communication that Justin had recently discovered, the city was called Starlight. According to a very strange book he had found in the library, a book that seemed to know his condition down to the base details, Starlight sheltered those of his affliction. That meant his targets could do what he could do. With enough hard work, they could lift vehicles over their heads. They could pick a man up and toss him a full yard away. And they were victims of bloodlust. Justin Barker's abilities had awakened one night when he was assaulted by a vicious pack of mobsters. A shy teenager with a minuscule sensitivity to blood had been shot and thrown into the water. What came out was a man with incredible gifts and a single morbidity. The gifts he loved. He had already run 3 circuits around Neuheim in under 30 minutes and crushed a pistol with one hand. As for the disease, Justin could feel it in his chest, throat, and mind. After his first trauma at the age of 6, he had carried his burdens with relative grace. With these gifts, he was now so anxiety-prone that he woke up 3 times a night. Cyclones of painful memories besieged him, and each time he woke, there was a certain urge to break something or someone. Justin never predicted his life would take such a dark turn, that he would be assaulted by such violent thoughts. He began picking fights in bars, getting himself lost in alleyways, and all of this because he simply could not settle down. He had visited the doctor more than once, but the drugs they gave him never worked. His condition was labeled unprecedented. One day, in a desperate attempt to learn more about his affliction, he had searched the library near his home, and right there, right on some dusty wooden shelf, was Awaken and Feast by Ethan Armada, subtitled, For Those Who Suffer from Inexplicable Urges. Justin had read the entire book that day. Arranged within were passages upon passages describing his exact experience. The voice within the text invited its reader to Starlight City. Justin checked every source at his disposal, and nowhere was Starlight City listed. Unwilling to give up, he returned to one particular, vague passage and started reading it over and over. I gathered them in the Meridian. After I left home, the mountains and forests gave me a beautiful private getaway. Open acres of land for me to run at full speed and walk through the bushes under pale night skies. But any large body needs a headquarters, don't it? We can't all live in the forest. We couldn't just toss stones around all day, every day. Pretty soon we start to crave all the little luxuries. Processed foods, toilet paper, clothing stores, drugs, alcohol, warm beds. So I found myself the perfect county. A city so densely populated you could blend right in. Simultaneously, I decided that I hated its hideous name. I wanted to give it my own. So I looked up at all the yellow and red lights and named it Starlight City. Like it? If you have any intention of living here, best learn to like it. Our yellow skies and stone walls make the seat of our county unbreakable. Want to join in? Search for the eye patch. If you find it, congratulations, you win. Just come in and take a seat. After his 9th reading, he understood that the society was hiding in plain sight. Now he needed to find the eye patch. He would not find it in writing. It was another code passed between this network of people, just spitballing ideas with his much smarter inner monologue. Justin assumed the eye patch, the secret seat of America's worst thugs, was a bar. First one he found was a thin apartment stacking 3 stories, sandwiched between 2 much longer buildings. The brick was white and the front door was placed beneath a large lit-up sign that read, Danny's Tavern and Grill. As Justin stepped closer, he saw that the door was a shiny yellow, almost golden. In the tavern's only 2 windows were blue paintings of bulls, seemingly about to charge at one another. Justin ascended 7 steps on a concrete platform and placed his hand on the doorknob of what he hoped was the eye patch. That is Living in Fear, a short segment. It is coming out in October. If you are interested in the book, please do. Oh, yes, Andrew. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Thank you for joining the show. You can expect a lot of that in book 2. So thank you for supporting this episode. If you like what you hear, if you like what you see, please do go and buy Barker's Rules. Please buy Living in Fear in October, and please buy Phantom Wound in next summer when it comes out. I will see you all next time for the next episode of Live Readings. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.